Now, what you might notice here is that the application is being watched. So the gulp tasks that we've defined are set up to watch for changes to our application as we write it, and then run the same process of converting TypeScript into JavaScript so that we can get a live view of the changes that we make. So let's just see this in action. Right now we've got hello and then whatever we've got from our input box here. But what if we changed it over here in our hello.ts to say maybe hi? So instead of hello, we'll say hi. If we save that and then come quickly back over to the terminal, we'll see that we've got some action happening here. And then if we come back over and refresh, we see we've got hi world instead of hello. So that's a nice feature of setting up a build process and having it watch for changes. We don't now have to always be manually converting our TypeScript into JavaScript. So I think what we'll do to just convert a piece of our ng classifieds app over is maybe we'll just show the classified cards. And of course we'll want some styles for them from Bootstrap. And we'll also want to pull the data from Firebase, so why don't we get the appropriate CSS and JavaScript in for that. So let's go over here to getbootstrap.com, and we'll just grab the CSS link here. So we can go getting started, and then down here, let's just grab this style link. So we'll copy that, and let's now paste that into our index.html. That can just go under here. And now let's grab the Firebase JavaScript file. So we can get that from firebase.com. If we go over here to docs, and then web, and then if we go to quick start, we'll see a link here for the Firebase JavaScript. And we can copy that, and maybe we'll put that somewhere down here. All right, so let's save that. And now let's work on converting the application over. So the first thing I think we should do is maybe get rid of hello wherever it shows up. So hello there and there as well. And then that dash as well. We'll get rid of those and we'll just call it app. And in the same way, we can rename hello.ts to app.ts. And this hello.js can get deleted. You'll see there that app.js just got converted for us automatically when we put this new app.ts file in. And then over here, we need to say that the selector is app instead of hello app. And let's rename our class to app as well. And of course, we need to pass in app here instead of hello app. So let's just make sure this still works. Let's save there, and we'll save there as well. And we'll come back over to the browser and let's refresh. And so it looks like we've got a problem, and let's see what that problem is. All right, so it looks like we forgot to change hello somewhere, and I think I know where that is. I think over here, we forgot to change dist hello to app. So let's try this again. If we're back over in the browser and we refresh, we've now got our Bootstrap styles. You can see the text is different and everything is still working there. Okay, why don't we start with a simple nav bar up top just to give it a bit of a look as if it's an application. So within the body here, let's just do a new nav tag. And so we'll open up a nav tag, and then let's give it a class of navbar and navbar default. And then within that nav tag, let's create a div. And in this div, we want a class of navbar header. And then we can just put an a tag, and that a tag can point to a dead link, and we just want a class of navbar brand. Then within there, let's just call it AngularJS. And then we can bump things down here just to make it look a little nicer. And then what we'll actually want to do is wrap our app element here in a container. So let's do a div with a class of container. And then we can just take this ending piece and move it down here. And so now our application is going to show up inside of a container. So let's save that and let's check it out to make sure it's worked. All right, perfect. So now we've got this nav bar up top and we've got some padding around our content. So that's showing up nicely. All right, so let's change up the template here. Let's head back over to Sublime and we'll get rid of everything in here. And then let's open a div with a class of row to start. And then inside this, let's set up the actual classified card. So we'll come down here and we'll say that we want a div with a class of call, and it's gonna be small 4. And so that's going to take up a third of the page. And it's on this div that we'll set up the repeater. And so repeaters look kind of similar to how they did with ng repeat, but instead now in Angular 2, we put a star and then we do ng 4. And so ng4 is going to be equal to our repeater. And then we say that we want classified of classifieds. So the signature here for the repeater looks a little bit different than what we are used to from ng repeat, but it works in a pretty similar way. All right, so then within this div, let's set up all of the content. So now we can come over and we can give maybe a div with a class of thumbnail, and that'll give us some bootstrap styles for this part. And then within that thumbnail, why don't we start with the image? So let's do image, and the source is going to point to our classified image. So classified image. And so this looks similar. We've seen stuff like this before where we template something out with a double curly braces. And in this case, we're just using a standard source. We're not needing to use ng source. So that problem of the browser looking for an image when it's not there has kind of been taken care of for us in Angular 2. All right, so let's get another div, and this one we want a class of caption. And then within there, let's put out the title and the price. So we can come down and we can say that we want an h2, and that h2 is going to take the title. So we'll template out the title. And then we'll put in an h3 next. We'll have an h3, and this is where we'll put the price. So classified price. And Angular 2's got a similar concept to filters. They're accessed in the same way with the pipe character, but in Angular 2 they're actually called pipes, which works kind of well because we use the pipe character to access them. Now the currency pipe is a bit different in Angular 2. What we have to do is we say currency, and then we have to put in some arguments. So the first argument is what type of currency, and we want US dollars. And then we want to say that we want to show the symbol, the default symbol for US dollars here. We do that by saying true. All right, so the final thing we'll do now is we'll put in a paragraph tag, and this will be where our description goes. So classified description. We'll expand on this in just a little bit, but let's save that for now. And of course, if we were to come over in the browser, we won't see anything because we don't actually have any classifieds set up to repeat over yet. And what we need to do is we need to bring them in from Firebase. So just like in Angular 1, we could set up a service to use for our Firebase reference, but because we're just doing a quick application here, let's just set everything up right here in our application class. So down here, let's get rid of this name, and let's say that we want a ref, and that ref is going to be of type Firebase. So that's our TypeScript types coming in. We want a ref of type Firebase, and that is going to be equal to a new Firebase. And my Firebase, of course, is at this link. It's https ng classifieds.firebase.io.com. And then we also know that we're going to need an array of classifieds. So let's set that up here. We need a property called classifieds, and that is going to be of type array. We'd also define what goes in that array. And we do that with our brackets, and we say that we want objects in that array. And we can initialize it to an empty array. So now JavaScript classes will take a constructor, and the constructor is what gets run to wire up the class. And so this is where we can kind of put any initialization that we want for our class, and this is probably for now the best place to put in the behavior that's going to take care of fetching our data from our Firebase and then pushing it into the classifieds array. So here let's say let classifieds equal this classifieds. And so what this is doing now is it's setting up the proper scoping for us to access our classifieds array. So we're setting up a classifieds variable with the new let key that is pointing to our classifieds array up here. And to point to something that's set up here, we use the this keyword. So we do that below here by saying we want this ref, and so that points up here to our ref, our Firebase ref, and then we want to say on, and when we have a value, we want to pass a callback, and then we're going to get some data from that. And in here, inside this callback, is how we're going to handle that data. And so you'll probably remember from our Firebase module that in Angular 1 we used $on. And we also used $add if we wanted to add data in and that sort of thing. But now we're not actually using the Angular specific implementation of Firebase. Angular Fire, which is what we were using before, and is the reason why we had to use $, instead of just plain on, was created to take care of some of the idiosyncrasies of Angular 1 that we no longer have to worry about in Angular 2. So we'll come down here and we'll do data for each, And then this callback will have the children from that data. So for each child, we want to push it onto the array, but we actually want to push the value of it. So we'll say classifieds push child.val. And so that's now going to push the value that comes back from Firebase for each of the objects. So let's save that and see if it works. All right, cool. We've got all of our data coming through. So one thing you'll notice here is that the heights are quite different on each of the elements, and that kind of messes up our flow here on our page. So why don't we set kind of a standard height? The way you might deal with this in a real life scenario might differ. You might have something that gives you that masonry effect where each of the elements takes a different height, but they all fit together nicely. But just to deal with this for now, let's put in kind of a fixed height. To do that, we can define a style right within our component. So if we come over here, let's come below our template, put a comma there, and now we want to define styles. And styles takes an array, and in that array, we use our backticks again so that we can put in some multi-line styles. And so the only style we really want is that on the thumbnail class, we want a height of, let's say, 650 pixels. Now let's see what that looks like. So now everything has a uniform height, and that's good for the way that it looks for now, but again, you might choose to do something different in a real application. Now something that's missing here, of course, are those buttons we had before. We had a button for showing the contact information, and also for the administration area, so let's put those in the next video.